Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is the latest rhythm game from Square Enix, and it's not quite what you might expect. It certainly isn't what I was expecting. Now, to preface this, I'm not a fan of music or rhythm games in general. I detest the old Guitar Hero games and found them quite boring. So, why is it that I actually like Theatrhythm then? There's a lot that goes into this, so let's break it down. Firstly, even though it's not called Final Fantasy anymore, as it does contain tracks from other Square Enix games, such as Nier and the Mana series, it is still very much heavily focused on Final Fantasy, and contains tracks from all mainline titles, and some offshoot titles as well, and an impressive number of them at that. Over 500 tracks are playable from a range of Square's IPs, and while the music really is the focal point of the game, it's not mine. You see, what I often do while working is listen to Final Fantasy OSTs, and Theatrhythm has all of my favorite tracks in good, high quality, and one of the best features of the game is the auto mode. This lets you just load up a song and let the game play it while you listen to the music in all its glory. Or you can also just use the music mode and create your own playlist of songs to actually listen to. Granted, you do have to unlock them first in order to use this feature. But if you do want to play it, you can, and in a number of different ways. Firstly, tracks will have a varying amount of difficulties from beginner all the way to supreme. Now, I do most tracks on either the first or second difficulty due to eye strain. I just can't keep up on higher difficulties. But aside from that, you can also choose to change the mode. There are 3 modes available: normal mode, pair mode, where 2 people can play locally together, one person controls the top 2 circles, and the other controls the bottom 2. And last but not least, we have simple mode. Simple mode removes the arrow controls, and it lets you do everything with just a single button. A very nice accessibility option in my opinion, and I found myself using it on some of the more difficult tracks, but did get rather bored using it on the easier ones. But this is one of those things that is absolutely better to have and not use than need to use but not have it. There's also options to hide parts of the screen or remove the background if you want to make things harder or easier for yourself, and you can change the speed at which the notes come at. For the gameplay side, we have 3 main modes. What is essentially story mode, music mode, where you can just play any unlocked tracks, and multiplayer mode, where you compete against other players. Due to me having a review copy, however, I have not had the experience of trying multiplayer online at the time of making this review. Music mode has to be my favorite though. Not for the normal songs you do in the story mode, but for the EMS stages, or event music stages. This is where iconic songs from the franchise have unique cutscenes attached to them, depicting battles, characters, and important story segments from previous games. For example, Tsuruki Dana shows the Makalania cutscene along with a few other little tidbits while you are playing. In order to unlock these EMS tracks though, you have to complete the entire title in series quest mode. A very nice throwback to the classics, and really gives you that wow feeling, at least until you pay more attention to the cutscene in the background and you start missing notes. Story mode is where things get a little iffy for me. There are thousands of music tracks for the franchise, so limiting them down to 500 is very difficult. Now, it's very likely there's going to be nobody who enjoys all 500 songs here. For me personally, there's absolutely a few of which I'm just not interested in, but still have to play to get through the stages. I'm okay with that until you get through an entire title's tracks to find out some of the best ones are just not included, but that's down to a personal preference, so I won't hold that against the game nor subtract any points for it. What I will subtract points for, though, is the reused assets. While going through the stages, you have a generic background that will see a good few times each title, and the same mobs across a ton of the different titles. Fighting a Coral, for example, a mob in multiple Final Fantasy titles, it is the exact same image for it across the titles instead of using the designs from those games. It's a nitpick, I know, but I would have liked the little nod to the titles it got the music from. Aside from that, there's also Genova in the FF7 title tracks. Genova is in 3 stages and it's the same form each and every time. I do think they should have created each of her forms to include, but I think my worst trigger though is the final boss for Final Fantasy X's title. It's Ozma. Why? Like, Braska's final Aeon appears halfway through the stages. Why not make him the final boss for the title instead of using Ozma? It makes no sense and it ruins the immersion. I also can't understand the character selections. No Steiner or Freya from FF9, but all characters from FF15. Even FF2 has more playable characters than FF9 and FF10. FF10 only gets 3 characters, with 2 more unlockable once you complete the game, with FF10-2 also only getting 3 at the start. This comes down to personal preference for it being a problem, but still, FF2 getting so many characters when titles which are quite literally 100 times more popular only getting 3 or 4 characters, I just cannot wrap my head around this one. However, for me, this is not a game to take seriously. Even though it's on PS4 and Switch, to me, this is a game best got on Switch. It's something that would be great at helping you sit down and relax with. Not something you want to sit there and play for hours on ends though. But at 30 to 60 minute stints, it's both fun and calming. Now, Square did gift me a PS4 copy, as I mentioned, to create this review. However, I'm going to buy the Nintendo Switch version personally, so I can play it anywhere when I just want to kill 5 to 10 minutes or relax for a little bit. So, the question becomes, should you buy it? Well, I think it comes down to the person, of course, and also what you want to get out of this game. I'm buying it on Switch as it's very relaxing and a calming game, and I do enjoy the throwbacks to previous titles. Plus, let's be honest, there's a lot of good music in here which is worth listening to, even if you want to just treat it as an original soundtrack instead of a game. I don't, however, think it's worth sitting down and playing for 3, 4, or even 5 hours at once. And personally, I would find it extremely difficult to do that. However, for streamers and content creators in particular, there is a new overlay added to the game, which you can enable. This will tell you all your critical scores, your goods, your bads. It will have a controller icon on screen to show everybody exactly what buttons you are pressing and when, which is really beneficial, in my opinion, to the streaming side of content creation, and it is a very nice addition, which I'm very glad to see. All in all, if we look at the music, the gameplay, the graphics, and just the mood it creates when playing, I'll actually rate this a 7 out of 10. I really want to give it a 6 though, because it's lacking some of my most beloved tracks, but that's too much bias from me, so we'll stick with 7. Not the best game, but it's not trying to be. It is, however, one of the most relaxing games I've played, and personally, I think that makes it worth it. But let me know, do you agree or do you disagree? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section, and while you're down there, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more content. As always though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.